Sweet. So Matt Thraxton, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hello, Will. How you doing, man? I'm very well, thank you.
And where am I speaking to you from? So tell the listeners where you are.
So I'm currently sat on my couch in my front room in Shanghai, China, and I just got back from teaching a class. So it's 9:30 p.m.
And for those of you that are listening to this on a podcast, which most of you will be, Matt has two very prominent Union Jack pillows. So keeping it real.
Deliberate product placement, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. So currently based
British since I've been away.
yeah, currently based in Shanghai, China. But as I may have alluded to already, you're not actually from there. So why don't you give the listeners a little bit of a background on you, where you're from, and how you ended up in Shanghai?
Yeah. So originally from a little town in Devon called Honiton, so in England, the southwest of England, and I guess like a lot of sort of young boys, and I was always into fitness and playing football and skateboarding and sports, and always an active child. Went away to college, university, did sports, and I kind of wasn't really sure what I wanted to do if I was into physiotherapy or sports management, or did I want to be a professional footballer or a rock and roll star?
That was one of the options you were tossing up.
or lumberjack. But, so I got an opportunity to go to the States to do the summer soccer camps. So I went over to the States, and there was 5 or 6 weeks there where you do the little summer soccer camp. So for Monday to Friday, you'll teach the kids football, and then on the weekend you travel to the next place, set up your camp, do it again. And then in the winter, when I came back, I went to the mountains, went to the Swiss Alps, and in the second year, the French Alps, and did snowboarding. And so I sort of was, I guess, in that place of, trying to find yourself, what you wanted to do. But I was always into fitness. I always loved sport. And so I went through, the usual sort of being a gym instructor, and then trying to get into weights and doing bodybuilding and personal training, and sort of tried several things in the industry. But it was when I was in the States, so I was training at Gold's Gym. And then I was coaching soccer at West Carteret High School. So I was a high school soccer coach. And then the manageress at Gold's Gym said, "Hey, do you want to teach body pump?" And I was like, "What is it?" And she said, "Oh, it's this group fitness workout." And I was like, "No." I was a typical guy, I lifted weights and played sports. And so I did football. I was a typical manly man. And I thought aerobics
Not
was
aerobics.
Just for the bored middle-aged housewives, it was a very, very stereotypical view. And she was like, "Hey, look, we're bringing this new thing in. And the guys that invented the program told us that if we get some men teaching it, it'll be pretty cool." And she said, "Look, my husband's going to go on it. So it'll be great for you two to both go together." And she said, "I think you'd be pretty good at it." I was like, "All right." So I took this VHS cassette home. That's how old I am. It was VHS cassette. So if any of you listeners are of a mature ilk like me, you'll remember the video recorders. And anyway, it was Body Pump 44. So I put this thing in the machine.
44. That's not. I think I started earlier than 44. That's not that old, Matt. That's not that old.
You've got a better moisturizer plan. But I sort of watched it and thought, "Hey, hang on, actually, this looks pretty cool." It was good training. It was good music. It was a busy room full of people. And as the guy on stage, McSweeney, had this sort of charisma and this sort of bullish kind of charm that you thought, "Oh yeah, this, I could give this a go." And it was from that moment. So as that tap on the shoulder from her name was Terry, that sort of got me involved into group fitness. And I guess from there, I just sort of fell in love with group fitness, and got the opportunity to move overseas. So I ended up traveling a little bit. I went back to the UK, lived in New Zealand for 4 years, went to Australia for 4.5 years, and then got the opportunity to come to where I am now, China. So essentially it was through this Body Pump Les Mills thing that got me into group fitness. And then the opportunity for China was just, it just came up. So it wasn't a plan that I wanted to end up here. I think it was just kind of, good timing that I was able to move countries, and I had the sort of experience and the skill set that they needed for the role. So I ended up being the training manager of the Les Mills team here in China.
And so what does that entail exactly when you say training manager for Les Mills in China? Tell me a little bit about your day-to-day and what you're responsible for.
It's kind of changed a lot recently with the virus situation.
Yeah, I bet.
Which has been good, actually. But essentially, as group fitness instructors, someone trains the group fitness instructors to teach their programs, whatever that may be. So in the Les Mills world, we have these trainers that are out on the road teaching the programs and training the instructors. So my role is sort of the recruitment and the development of the training team. And that would be presenters and assessors that kind of, they're kind of quality control of the product, but they're also the ambassadors and the face of the product. So I still teach classes myself because that's what I'm passionate about. And then I manage the team that train and coach and educate the instructors. And as with the virus situation, as we've kind of moved more into a bit of a digital space, there's a lot more online stuff now. There's a lot more to camera. And I've kind of become a part-time director behind the scenes, which has been pretty cool. So the day to day, it really is varied every day, so it's technically an office-based job where you're operating and running the team. But, this weekend I went north to a place that's near Beijing called Jinan and just did a marketing event. You do group fitness management training. You might do a seminar where you're talking to instructors on how to have longevity in the industry, how to stay current in the industry. You might do a promotional class to try and be selling your products to that gym. So the cool thing about it is it's very wide and varied now. And with this sort of move into the digital space, I'm challenged and I'm learning quite a lot there as well, which is something I know a lot about because you jumped on that years ago.
Yeah, I think learning a lot about the digital space is probably something that most instructors would say is the biggest learning curve. Interesting that you're doing it in a far off place and at a different level to a lot of the instructors that listen to this maybe. Okay, so let's jump into the fitness industry in China, because I'm really, really interested to hear about the industry, because we hear a lot about China in Western media. We definitely don't hear about a lot about the fitness industry, and we don't hear a lot about positive things going on in China most recently. So I am really interested to hear about you and your experiences on the ground. Before we jump into fitness, what was the experience of the pandemic, just the pandemic itself, like living in China?
It was interesting. So it came right over that Chinese New Year period. So we'd already started winding down for the festival. People had traveled back to their hometowns, and people were starting to think about getting away for their holidays and seeing the family. And so that stuff had actually started, and then the virus hit, and it was essentially, okay, just need to stay where you are for a couple of weeks, everything will be fine. So it's sort of the first few days was just, there's this pandemic that's happened, there's a few cases. Our advice is don't travel back to your big cities yet, just stay with your family, stay home. And in a few days or a couple of weeks, it'll be back to normal. So it was almost nothing much those first few days. And for me personally, I left for the Spring Festival. I went to Bali to see some friends, Pete and Yvette there. And then when I was ready to fly back, I couldn't fly back. There was no flights. They just cancelled in Scotland. So it obviously had gotten a lot more serious.
So you got stuck in Bali? What a shame.
Yeah. Well, I know. It's
what a hardship upon you.
It wasn't a humble brag. And I was due to go to Taiwan for a fitness event. And I actually ended up traveling to Taiwan Valentine's Day, because I remember February 14th. I stayed there 10 days and then came back to China on the 24th. So I actually just got back in before the very serious kind of lockdown. But what actually happened, the thing is in China is once they knew that something was pretty serious, they jump on it straight away. Yeah. So the government straight away locked the place down, and it was, not able to travel. It was, in your compound where you live, people were locked down straight away. And they follow the rules here. So it's, there isn't rogue groups of people going and having parties and going to sporting events. Everyone just did what they were told. And so it was pretty scary for me, because all I'm seeing on, I still follow a lot of the British news and overseas. And so I'm getting, Matt, you got to get out of China. This is crazy. It's the worst place to be. They've got this virus, and it was in Wuhan. And are you near Wuhan? What's going on? And, and so you had this Western idea of what was happening that was pushing in on me. And I was like, well, actually, we feel quite safe because lots of security. I mean, there's people in hazmat suits everywhere. You've got to get your temperature check, and then we've got QR codes on our WeChat. They monitor where you go, what you do, and so it is a little bit like Big Brother watching you. And the funny thing is, had I only just moved to China, I would have felt quite scared about all that. Because I've been here a few years, and I kind of know that there's a lot of security cameras, there's a lot of security with WeChat and apps that monitor you. It's a real safe place, and you actually straight away felt like the government had control of the situation.
Interesting. So rather than feeling scared, you felt safe because of the level of oversight that the government has generally.
Yeah, and it is, and I understand the Western philosophy, because obviously I'm a Western person, so I get that whole where they're looking at things. what do you mean they locked you down straight away and you couldn't leave your house, and then they monitor where you move on your phone? Like
Well,
that.
the reality is that they ended up doing it to us eventually. It just kind of dribs and drabs over a longer period of time, right?
And the reality is, in less than 2 months, we were out of it. And then gyms were opening up again, group fitness started again, sporting events started again, music events.
Interesting. So actually that brings me to my next question. How long was the fitness industry out of action in China?
Yeah, so essentially it was about 2 months.
Wow.
Like I've done a few podcasts in and around the time that we had the pandemic. So, and it was all around this, how did the clubs shut? How did they open? Operate? What happened? So essentially what happened is we had that classic thing where clubs opened, but group fitness didn't open. So
right. Exactly the situation that everyone's been finding themselves in this year.
And they were restricting the amount of people that could go into the gym. When you got to the gym, you had to show your health code to show that you hadn't been to any dangerous areas, and that your temperature check, you have to wear masks. The level of cleanliness in the club was double, tripled, quadrupled. There was people walking around all the time, wiping down the machines, cleaning. Originally, you had, an hour and a half slot that you could go and work out. And then for the next 30 minutes, the gym was shut down and it was cleaned. And then the second slot opened up.
So you actually crossover of cohorts.
Yeah, you had to actually book your session, and they were limited to, they kind of limited it to 50% of normal occupancy. So some clubs would dive in and go per square inch, and they really worked it out. Some were a little bit more flexible. And then once confidence was back with the members and it started to grow, then it was personal training could come back on. And then group fitness, as you know, at a 50% capacity, reduced time table, and all those things. But
are you still operating under restrictions, or is group fitness back?
We haven't had restrictions for a long time. I mean, we still.
Oh no! Don't say it.
This is the thing, and I did a couple of posts, and some people were inspired that there was light at the end of the tunnel, and they thought it was great. They could see getting back to normality, and obviously some people were like, "Oh, I feel jealous because I can see you're back teaching. We wish we were. We had an event." But the reality of it is, every country is different. Every politician was dealing with it different. Society dealt with it different, and I'm seeing what's happening in Australia and the UK, and it's just different here. The government came down really hard. It was effective quickly. People followed the rules, and we got back to normal quite fast. And so for me, it's been 100% positive. It was scary at the start, like I said.
Yeah.
But it's when you see what happened in the UK, where people were still going out and gathering and drinking, and people in Aussie still going to the beach, and then there was a bit of lockdown, then not lockdown, and different levels of lockdown, and it was just a mess, and it was just a shame, because in my mind it felt like it could have been dealt with a lot, maybe not harsh as the word, but actually a lot stricter and a lot more regimented, because it clearly worked that way.
Yeah.
And so I do feel very lucky to be living in Shanghai, very lucky that I was in China at the time.
Well, unless you're in Australia and you've got strict and long, the worst of all worlds, apparently, at the moment.
Different states are different, and people are, I mean, it is a horrible thing, and it's something that the whole globe was going for at the same time. But interestingly enough, those first sort of 5 or 6, 7 weeks, when nobody else in the globe was having it, just China, nobody cared about us in China. It was like, it was a virus that started in China. It's your guys' fault.
Leave you to it.
Then when it started to come over, sit like, whoa. And then when people started to see China was coming out of lockdown and business I was okay. How did you do it? What did you do? Give us some help. So it was quite an interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
and obviously,
for sure.
Foreigner being here, I can see both sides of it.
Yeah.
But made it. The funny thing is, it's like business is booming. So what we had was people that were doing online workouts, group fitness, that weren't doing fitness in the gym normally. Once the gym opened, they started getting back in the gym and doing group classes. So we saw a heavier volume of traffic of people wanting to do group fitness classes.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So that brings us on to a really good thing to talk about, is that you are back teaching classes, no capacity restraints. I want to hear a little bit about what people did in that interim. Sounds like they went to digital, but is your experience that the larger reach of digital has brought more people into the real life experience?
100%. I mean, it's interesting.
Okay, that's positive for everybody listening. Everyone's going, I've still got capacity restrictions, but they're hearing some positive news here.
It's I mean, I've actually been teaching since April. I think it was actually 60 days exactly. My last class to my first class during the pandemic was exactly 60 days, because I wrote an article about it, and it was a cycle class. It was RPM. Yeah. And I can remember I was heartbroken. I pulled on my Lycra shorts and they were baggy because my legs had got so small. but exactly that, mate. And it was interesting because
Sidebar, you still wear Lycra to teach cycle? Is that still a thing?
I'm
Bib shorts,
uh,
mate.
but I wear a baggy top.
Okay.
I don't wear cycle jerseys anymore. Yeah, I don't want to be a middle-aged man in Lycra. Was that a man? But yeah. So initially, what you found was there was a little bit of lack of confidence from certain areas of the public that didn't want to get back to the gym. Understandable. Then you had the raving fans that just couldn't wait to get back in and smash it, and they were doing a couple of classes every day and going gut the leather. And within sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks, as capacity sort of grew in terms of class occupancy of what you're allowed, it was literally every couple of weeks we could grow a little more. So full occupancy was back within a month or so from that.
Wow. Okay.
Down. It was very fast. But it was, every club was different. So some clubs would still keep a smaller capacity for a while. But exactly that, what happened was you had this initial drive back of maybe 60-70% of members that grew to 80 to 90. And then obviously there are some members that have dropped off and they've stayed doing at-home workouts because what they found was it was just more convenient. You know, if you're mom, you've got a couple of kids and one of the kids is sick, you know, you can just do your workout on your TV. That's great.
I think that's the long-term effect of the pandemic, right? Will be that people have experienced digital, therefore when it works for them, they're going to do it. But I don't think there's any question about whether digital doesn't replace in person. It just gives the consumer another option to make it fit with whatever they need to do in their day.
100%. And even with me, you know, I'll travel, you know, I travel a lot with my job. So I'm in hotels and then I just get my phone and whack on a workout. And I'm doing different workouts that I wouldn't normally do, you know, so I'm doing a lot more yoga based stuff, a lot more mindful stuff, mobility, flexibility, stuff that I wish I'd done 20 years ago.
Yeah, tell me about it.
You know, it's 10 o'clock at night. I've finished a big day at work. I'm at a hotel, boom, put my phone on, do 20 minutes. And so, yeah, absolutely. The whole, you know, traveling 20 minutes to a gym, you know, getting dressed in the change room, changing, having to wait for equipment, some, you know, big dude with muscles, you know, staring in the mirror, annoying you, you know, I've got skimpy bras on and little knickers and all those stereotypes about the industry that are barriers to people working out.
Yeah.
Well, they're gone because you just work out at home, and that convenience, you know, and it really has changed the way that a lot of people work out. And even through the Facebook groups and things, I see tons of people have just gone, I don't need the gym anymore. So that square box where there's equipment inside, it's become very redundant.
But well, it's not the because you and I both obviously grew up in the gym industry and worked at the same. Actually, the first gym that I ever worked at in the UK, you were the fitness manager for a hot minute before you left. But like, we grew up in the gym space, and I think people are realizing now that the gym is no longer the center of people's fitness and wellness life. It's a place that they go to experience that. But if anything, the center of their fitness life is their phone, right? Because that's where they book to go to the gym if there's limited slots, and that's where they can take a class, track their heart rate, track their sleep, track their steps.
Yeah, and especially here in China, they're so tech savvy. I mean, the apps that we've got on our phones, and you know, I'm glued to my phone all the time. But it's not texting your friends, you know, social media. It's actually doing useful stuff because everything's in the palm of your hand. But going back to the start of the original question, so you do have that drop off of people that have realized traveling to the gym is just not necessary. I don't need. But what's also happened is that the people that are getting, you know, assisted exercise, so personal training, small group training, group fitness, they're community people. They're hungry for community. They love that. So yes, you can get that through the screen to a certain degree, but like you said earlier, you can't replace that live experience. And if you have got a good facility with good programming and a good instructor, people still crave that. So we've seen an increase in people coming back to group fitness, people doing different group fitness programs that they wouldn't normally have tried because they've tried it a few times in the privacy of their own home.
Yeah, where they couldn't get embarrassed about their lack of ability.
But also people that were in personal training. So I know some guys, you know, they're your typical personal training clients, but they weren't getting looked after by their PTs when the pandemic hit. That they just got left alone, and it was like, what do we do? So they start picking up some group classes through the TV screen. And they go, oh, actually, you know, I quite like this class, you know, and then when the gym's open, they want to go back to group fitness, and they've enjoyed that community feel, that energy you get with group fitness. So we've seen a bunch of new traffic come in that would never have tried group fitness classes in the first place. Yeah. So it's absolutely been a win-win.
So tell me a little bit about, like, I'm really curious about what is the group fitness experience in China. So you're from the UK. You've lived in New Zealand, you've lived in Australia, you spent a bit of time in the US, so you're pretty aware of what group fitness is in all of those locations, and that kind of knocks off the majority of the listeners to this podcast. So knowing what you know about like what a class is like in the States or in the UK or in Australia, what is the average class like in China? What are the similarities? What are the differences?
So what's really huge here is the boutique thing. So that's really taken off, and we can talk a bit more about the business of that later if you like. But essentially that sort of, you know, it might be 100 to 200 square meter plate. You know, it's 30-person studio, for example. And there's companies like Super Monkey that they're kind of, well, they don't say they are, but in my way of interpreting it, they're the Starbucks of fitness. There's one on every corner. There's one in every mall. 30-person studio. There's no front desk. There's no sales. There's no showers.
We'll stick a link to Super Monkey in the show notes to this, because if you don't know it by name, it's worth having a look at. It's a very interesting business.
Yeah, and they're doing you know, they're smart with what they're doing. But anyway, what they've got is, you know, these studios that are easy to access. They've got good group fitness programming, good group fitness instructors, and there's been a real boom there. So, but what you've got is it's very fashionable. It's young, it's fashionable, it's cool. So you've got to take a selfie, you've got to check in, you've got to put it on social media. You're there with your friends, you follow the cool instructor that's famous, and they build that profile. So the one thing I've noticed here is it's not so much about, you know, the physical training. So like you and I are from that same sort of background back in the sort of New Zealand kind of days. It was, you know, body attack, man. It's fitter, faster, harder, jump harder, jump higher, be stronger, you know. And it was if you're not lifting 20 kgs each side in the squat track, then why are you even on the stage? Yeah, well, you know, it was that very old school mentality, which was great at the time. It got us stuff, it got everyone needed to be, and you know, it drove people to get healthier and fitter. But times are different now, and I think one of the things I adapted to when I got here is I was still teaching with quite a high intensity, and it's still kind of training focused. But the two big things were, one, it's fun and motivation for the average person. That they're not training for the Olympics. So it just needs to be a cool experience for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you know, be a cool guy to be around for that time and guide people through a fun workout. The results are there. They'll get them. Don't worry. So I've really changed that angle. It's not so much the intensity focus now. It's more the success focus, the fun, the enjoyment. Yeah. And I used to hate people training in the gym taking selfies, and I used to hate people in the mirror. But now I'm going, so what, man? If that's what you want to do, that's totally cool. At least you're in there doing something. And you're posting on social media, so tons of other people are now also going to come, and they're involved in health and fitness. You know, who am I to say you have to be at a certain fitness level to enjoy the products? Of course not.
It's interesting how your perspective changes, right? Because I have to say that, like, being of the same generation as you, my approach to people coming into the gym has changed a lot. Like there was a time, and it's not a time I'm particularly proud of, but I'll admit to it, where I'd see someone in the gym and they weren't in very good shape, and they'd be using a machine that I want, and I'm like, oh, why are you even in here? I want to use that thing. And now I realize, wow, like that's the kind of person that is exactly the type of person that we should be encouraging into the gym, and that like the gym is for, and the group fitness is a really great solution for, because potentially it can be less intimidating if they can bring friends along, if they can try it at home first.
Exactly. I mean, it's experience and maturity, right? You know, and I was the same as you, and I see people the same way now. And I think the value is I can actually help coach and educate those people while they're still young, and they don't go down that route of, you know, it's all about how they look, or it's all about them, you know, being great at using the equipment and understanding it, and looking down on the people that are doing it wrong. The same as you, I've really changed. And so you've got that community thing, you've got the social thing, which those two things are huge for me now. But also it's beginners, man. I mean, for years, when I look back at it, and I'm ashamed to say, all I've really done is get fit people a little bit fitter. Yeah. For like 20 years. Yeah. And I don't know where it was along the journey. There's a few sort of key landmarks that we could talk about, but essentially my big learning that I could share is that in the fitness industry, we are not doing a good job of getting beginners into fitness. All you need to do is just look at the stats. That, you know, hundreds of gyms are opening up all over the world all the time. Lots of new group fitness instructors, lots of new personal trainers, lots of new education. We're not penetrating the general population anymore. We're not getting more people from 0 to 2, 3, or 4. You know, we're just getting people that are 7s and 8s in terms of fitness.
Yeah, I get it. So the industry, how old is the industry in China? Like, if you compare, you think that gyms have been around since, let's say, the 80s in sort of USA and UK, and kind of when the gym culture kind of grew up and aerobics started, jazzercise, all that sort of stuff. How long has the group fitness industry existed in China in terms of how long have people been going to classes? Have they been going all the time, or are gyms a relatively more recent concept?
I mean, it's still new, and I still think we're quite a few years behind, maybe the Western world in terms of exercise maturity and
Yeah.
education, and it's growing fast. So we sort of had a key pivotal moment. It was when we had the successful bid for the Beijing Olympics. So that was actually in 2001. So around sort of the late 90s, so 99, there was a club called Hosa, and Hosa was like one of the first big box gyms, standard operators. And what was the numbers? They sort of grew from 99 to 2009. They got up to about 90 clubs, and so that was your first sort of surge. And what happened within that time was I don't know if you remember the SARS epidemic. So that first pandemic came here. So that kind of raised, so those two things, the Beijing Olympics bid and then the SARS, was two things that kind of raised the awareness of health and fitness in China. So health and fitness and sport through the Beijing, and then health through well-being and being a healthy human and not catching a disease through the SARS. And that was where the boom sort of started.
Interesting, which is kind of the like a something that is drawing people into exercise in the UK and the US now is the resilience against future pandemic aspect.
We just couldn't have predicted that, could we?
Yeah. Who could have thought that would ever happen?
But it was strange enough. So like I said, in 2009, these guys Hosa had 89, 90 clubs, but in 2019 they actually shut down. So that was a big change in the industry, where the big box gym had just become sort of a little bit dinosaur. So this whole more flexible, more nimble thing of people not wanting to be locked into a contract, not wanting to be locked into one single venue, not wanting to travel 30 minutes to a club, not wanting to be restricted with the service offerings of one facility. The thing here in China is things move quick and they're very agile. And there is money. So there's investors pumping money into SuperMonkey. There's investors in LaFit. You've got Alibaba that are throwing money into health and fitness. And
I have to say, I don't know why, but I had this preconception because like I look at China and the scale of the cities is so big and the buildings are so big and there's so many people. I kind of had this view of gym classes being big, like the classic Australian or New Zealand kind of 200 people in a studio. That was what I had in my head. But it sounds like what you're saying is that those cities with 12 million people just have thousands and thousands of small local
pretty much
places.
So you've still got some successful big box gyms. So Terra Wellness is one. They're one of our club partners, and a few of our sort of Lesmos team teach at those clubs. So I stay quite involved with what they're doing. And you've got your kind of studio that might be 80, 90 people, and they've got some freestyle classes that rock. They've got some Lesmos classes that rock. The dance programs are great here. So Zumba, freestyle dance, body jam, anything martial arts goes really well here, and anything yoga goes well. So those three things are big hitters. But you're right, the boutiques are really where it's at, and it's that young, fashion, fresh, nimble, agile. It's sexy, it's cool. It's your app on your phone. Once you've done 50 classes, you get a big thing on your phone that lights up and shows everyone. They're great with marketing. So you get the stickers, the badges, you get the t-shirts, the baseball caps. I mean, it's real social, it's real community, it's fast, it's young. So the big box gyms have cottoned onto that. So they're starting to do this sort of club within a club kind of thing, where they have a boutique feel in their studios, because they've realized, that's what's attracting people. But I think the key thing is around, if I want to do, a Zumba class somewhere, I know where the cool Zumba instructor is. But then if I want to do a yoga class, that's somewhere else. The cool yoga instructor is somewhere else. Then if my friends are going to go and do body pump down the road, I want to do their pump. So I don't want to be locked into any of those gyms. I just want to pay as I go, do what I want when I want. So that's where the flexibilities come in. So yeah, the image of those sort of those old days, like the Aussies, and even in the UK, even at Cannons, it was quite a big studio, some decent. That isn't going here. But when we have an event, we do get that. So LaFit is a club that just recently had an event, and they're getting 600-700 people in a body combat class.
Okay, but it's more about like it's a destination event or a weekend thing or a location that people come to rather than a regular large class.
Yeah, so the regular classes are definitely that boutique feel, but what's happening is the successful clubs are really leveraging that group fitness and getting people into personal training. So they're understanding that group fitness is it's kind of a limited income source, right? So
Yeah,
there's
so
only
they're getting the low cost per head,
yeah.
the low cost per head thing into the more expensive thing,
And
which
then
is
it's, oh,
personal
hey, by
training.
the way, let's get you on a 6-week plan, or let's get you
Yeah.
on nutrition. And they're being smart about it. So the successful coaches, they're understanding that. And mate, since the pandemic, if you were a little bit smart and you got online quick and you stayed connected with your community straight away and you offered some stuff, it didn't have to be bright lights, big city. It could just be quick and easy and dirty off your phone, off your Mac.
Yeah.
If you got in there quick and you kept that community going, you're paying, it's paying dividends now, because you're able to leverage that, and you're back teaching your classes in front of people.
Yeah.
But you've got these online programs and this repertoire of people and these on-demand workouts, and that's where people have been successful, and that's where group fitness is going, which is great, because it's just getting more people to do the stuff that you and I love, and that's what we're about, isn't it? And
So
make it accessible, really easy to do to beginners.
The average instructor in China, like, tell me a little about them. Are they an instructor who is also a PT? Are they a hobbyist? How do they differ or bear similarities to what you would see elsewhere?
So what I see here is there's a larger percentage of full-time instructors.
Okay.
When I think back to all the countries I've been in and where I've been, Les Mills, New Zealand, for example, quite a lot of the instructors are personal trainers, so they supplement. I'm doing those two roles. For example, here, if you're at Pure Fitness, they're two separate jobs. So you're a full-time instructor or you're a full-time PT. If you're
you're employed rather than self-employed.
Yeah, so they've got the employment model. So they're doing 16 classes a week, for example, when you're employed. So you'll go to team meetings, you'll do class covers, you'll be part of the launches, and their model is you're fully invested in the company, you're part of the staff, and you get that engagement.
Yeah.
You're not able to teach anywhere else, so you're restricted to that one club, but that's your club that you're affiliated to.
Yeah.
And you get a lot. So Super Monkey instructors, full-time, the fit instructors full-time. I'm in a little boutique studio called ZMB, and they've got a bit of a blend. So they have a group of full-time instructors.
Yep.
And they also have the come and go people like me. So I just teach 4 classes there. And if I want to teach at another club, I can. I just don't, because my schedule's pretty busy.
Yeah.
But I've got that flexibility if I want. So
interesting. Okay. So it's more of an employed model than because I think of group fitness instructing as kind of the classic freelance job, right? Like, it's all fine and good to get all your classes from one gym, but at the same time, it didn't happen very often. So you kind of had to go around to others.
100%. Yeah. It was, and I think back to my time in Aussie, I was teaching at 3 or 4 different clubs, so there was a Fitness First, it was Virgin Active, it was GSAC, and then
but is that just down to differences in the way they look at employment models, or is it that because these brands have cottoned on to the fact that the instructors the draw card and therefore they want them to be a staff member rather than a contractor who could disappear and take the people with them?
I mean, it's a real big drive towards the coach being the pivotal role within the club. So absolutely, they're seeing big value in, that they're still in that place where they want to create rock stars. So the whole thing is around creating a rock star, leveraging that rock star. How can we have 3, 4, 5, 10 rock stars? Can we have a rock star that teaches at 5 or 6 of our venues so they can leverage memberships in driving each of those? So it is around that, but also it's the mindset. So it is very much a career mindset here. So when I do seminars for instructors, it's always around, how do I push my career forward? How can I make more money? How can I be more relevant, more current? How can I have longevity? Where's the career path? What if I want to be a GFM? What if I want to be a presenter? What if I want to create my own programs? So it's just not seen as a casual gig as much as it is maybe in other countries. It's a serious full-time profession that people have invested their time and energy into. And, part of my role is making sure that people understand how to take care of themselves physically and mentally so they can have a long career that's full-time fitness. And then this is where some of the small team training and the personal training and coaching is involved, because as you know, we can't jump around on stage like we're 20.
No, we can't.
Gotta be a bit smart.
We can try and fail. Okay, cool. So industry in China, it actually sounds like it's not that different to what we're seeing in a lot of other countries, and that it's becoming a lot more about the boutique, a lot more about community.
Yeah.
Those in-person classes are really fostering connection between the instructor and the participant. What do you think that is big and coming down the road in China or in Asia, like in the industry where you are, that potentially we could learn from in Europe and the USA and elsewhere? Is there anything that you think is potentially lacking where you've been that they really are doing well?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think obviously there's cultural differences, and
Yeah.
there's employment cost differences. So, luckily in China, we're able to have, for example, cleaners in the club at a
Hmm.
relatively low cost. So, especially coming off the back of the pandemic, operators that opened up again that were shown to have really increased their level of hygiene in the club, their level of cleanliness, visibility. Perception is reality, right? So
Yeah.
when you jump off a treadmill and you see someone go over and clean it, you're like, well, this
Yeah.
place is so that's a hard thing in some markets to actually reproduce, and I get that. But I think that's a key learning, that perception is reality. So when members do see that the equipment's getting looked after, there's a lot of cleanliness, there's a lot of great service, um, that really breeds confidence in people in that facility. So that's one thing that I do see here, and I actually saw it in Brazil as well, because I think Brazil is just another country where labor costs are low. So,
Yeah.
and that was where I first noticed it, and I was like, wow, this is awesome, because we never had this in the UK. When we
Yeah. Yeah.
coming off the back of the COVID stuff, that was really, really important. Um, and I think the flexibility, the way that businesses move so agile, and they make business decisions very quickly and change
Mhm.
operations, and admit if something's not working, and they try new things. And I feel that happens a lot here, that people are being creative, they're trying new things. It's there's never a resting on your laurels of trying to sort of exploit what we've always done, or just continue doing what we've always done that's been successful. It's let's explore new ways. So it was almost quite frightening for me, because having years in the fitness industry,
Mm.
you do get a little bit stuck in your ways, and you do get a little bit of resistance to change, and you think, oh no, this might not be right, maybe we should do this. And I've learned to really change my way of thinking and be a lot more open. And I think the successful coaches, the successful club operators, they've just broken the mold and just
Yeah.
completely done new things. And obviously the one main thing, obviously, that the rest of the world are also jumping on now is this digital space, this
Yeah.
online space. And I was holding on to that, because I was your typical, for years I was a Les Mills trainer, so I had the whole, I have to physically be in a room with 20 people to be able to train and educate them. I have
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
experience face to face. But it's like, no, you don't. You absolutely don't. And actually, we can have a greater level of connection through a screen. We can reach more people. We can be quicker, flexible, more nimble. I can do it more often. I can change my content straight away.
Mm.
So we're seeing that. And I think that the social thing is big. So I know you touched on it just now with community building. And one thing I think that's here is the social aspect. We have these key opinion leaders, KOLs, and it's like your Instagram supermodels, that they'll come into the gym, and if they do a workout or they do your launch class,
Yeah. Can't stand them, but can't live
double
without them.
how they get that job, I don't know. But it is where fitness is. Fitness, it is like I said, young, sexy, cool. It's fashion. It's fast here. Things change really quick.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's not just about turning up
it,
and
you know,
teaching a good class anymore, right? Like you and I achieved success at Les Mills sort of around the same time. We're on the DVDs, now videos, and masterclass presentations. I think we did our first one the same time, actually. And that was too long ago now, what, 17 years ago? But it was at a point where social media didn't really exist. And so you had a profile, but I think you mentioned it right at the start. You were tapped on the shoulder by someone that knew what they were doing, or had power, and it earned that right. And then you kind of got mentored and got put into this great arena where you got to do all these amazing things, where being a really, really good instructor was the most important thing, and being able to, sit in the essence of the program and deliver it really well and know your choreography. And I feel like being a top fitness instructor now, the actual delivering of a class really well is maybe 30, tops 50% of your role. And the rest of your role is creating community, actually interacting with your members, being present on social media, putting out content, all this sort of stuff that I actually find really hard. Like, I know that I have a brand that creates content, but even then it's slightly different to creating content for my own Instagram, which I hate doing. But if you're going to be an instructor that has success now, you've just got to accept that that's part of the role, right? You can't just turn up at 5 to 6, teach a great 6 p.m. class and leave and think you're going to be successful.
Yeah, 100%. It's
as much as I want to.
It's interesting because you're right, and I guess it was that era of, you know, you're totally obsessed about your craft, right? So you want to hone your skills. You get your learning from wherever you can. You know, you're in the gym training to get fit. You're in front of the mirror taking your technique. You're scripting your class. You're really knowing your music. You're watching other instructors that are great. You know, you're learning from musicians and actors, and you're doing all these things. And it was just get the skills down. And it was and I was totally obsessed from the beginning, you know, for many, many years. And I think you have to be, right, if you want to carve out a career. But it is, you know, the industry moves quick and things do evolve, and even moving to different countries was something that changed my way of teaching. And somewhere along the line, I did realize that it was more about community, and it was more, you know, it's a motivation.
How did your teaching change? I want to hold on that for a second. So you said that your teaching changed when you moved from country to country. What about it changed?
Oh, when I look back to how I taught in the States, I was just a cheerleader the whole time.
Well, I mean, you were in the States, so let's
I was so cheesy. You know, some of the stuff I used to say, some of the stuff I used to wear, but yeah, you know, I had no intelligent coaching. It wasn't around, you know, the training and fitness. It was just all around the rah-rah and the hype, and it was fun, and yeah, cheesy one-liners and jokes, and you know, and it was cool because I just loved being on stage. I loved having a room full of people and being the go-to guy for the fun, for fitness. And so that was kind of the start of my journey. And so it was around, you know, saying creative things, fun things, being a cheerleader, motivational stuff. And then I was back in the UK, and in UK,
being the first person to drop the bar in a body pump masterclass presentation onto a foot.
Bit of showmanship, you know. And the funny thing is, it is, you know, it's all around sort of that creating something in class that made it memorable. You wanted people to enjoy it, you know. Not necessarily train hard at that time or work hard, but you know, the wow factor you're trying to find. And then I guess back in the UK, you know, you rock up on stage and teach like that, people think you're an idiot, especially if you're English. You know,
why is this person shouting at me?
And this was, you know, this was 20 years ago. This was 2002. So, but then it became a bit more about the education. So I still wanted to keep the sort of the fun element and the unique personality side of it, but try and actually have some intelligent coaching around training and fitness. And I was on a bit of a one-man mission. So Body Pump was my main program. And I always fought against people that were like personal trainers or weightlifters or bodybuilders that thought Body Pump was just useless. So I was always around trying to break that barrier of people thinking Body Pump wasn't good training because it wasn't, you know, 4 sets of 10 in the gym doing a proper bench press. So I wanted to bring in some intelligent coaching, some authentic weight training language. I wanted to make sure I was lifting good weights and strong and in shape. So if someone that was a bodybuilder, for example, walked past the room, they'd go, you
wanted to prove that the workout that you were doing was a proper workout and not, and prove them wrong, essentially. Anyone that had doubts about it.
And it was, you know, I was probably a little bit darker in how I taught. I probably sort of was a little bit that Mike Masweeney style of maybe a little bit bullying, like, put some weight on your bar. It's a proper workout. You've got to squat deeper. It was around getting some integrity in the program, and it's around it being accepted in the fitness industry as a real workout. And then I think when I got to New Zealand, it was, you know, that was kind of heaven for me, because all the people I looked up to and idolized that were fitness instructors were athletes. You know, you had Steve Renata, you know, Mike Sweeney, Emma Barry, Susan Renata, Tolly at the time. You know, and, you know, Bevan James Isles, Ironman triathlete. You know, I mean, you're looking at these people that are just proper professional fitness people teaching group fitness, and you're like, wow, this is awesome. You know, they're bringing, you know, a rugby background, they're bringing a rowing background, an Ironman background, and then all of a sudden it was, well, actually, I'm at the bottom of the ladder again. So, you know, I'm climbing in terms of being fitter, more athletic, and representing the brand. So where you're in a place where it's, you know, it started 20, 30 years ago, you've got to be at such a high level. So that was where I really started to dial in some more skills around, you know, teaching a credible class. Like you said, it's around making sure your choreography is great. You know, you understand your music, you're coaching intelligently, you've got good connection, and you know, you've got some performance in there. So you're at the home of Les Mills. So you're teaching in a Les Mills way, but you're getting a great grounding in the skills to teach a good class. I wasn't doing much in and around before and after the class. I just rocked up to a great class. And like you said,
get away with it, right? Because what people expected was an excellent class. They weren't expecting all that other stuff. Yeah.
You know, they wanted a great, and you might do something like, you know, bring in some chocolate and hand out some chocolate at the end of
Yeah.
class, or you might see a good you know, recipe for fat-free muffins in a
Yeah.
magazine. So you rip it out, photocopy it, and hand it out. You do a bit of community building like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess when I got to Aussie, I just started getting more into the business, I guess, of fitness. So I was still teaching classes, but I was getting more around, you know, sales and marketing and the business of group fitness and management. So I started to lean more towards being a brand ambassador for a program and a product, you know. So I was probably a little bit more professional, a little bit more responsible. Still wanted to keep, you know, the Matt Thraxton quirkiness or the edge, because I never wanted anyone to talk to me after class and think I was a different person than I was on stage.
Yeah.
For me, it was all
Yeah.
around just being an authentic you. So the authentic me, you know, is always learning and growing and finding new ways and developing and upskilling. So yeah, my style changes through those. But you know, when you see me on stage and then you see me off stage, I'm the same person.
Mm.
You know, I always wanted to be just a real person, authentic. I might say something stupid, I might do something wrong, but it's all from a good place. So I think it was, you know, the community building was just around being, you know, a good person and loving people.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily practice any skills or try and do anything. I just loved talking to people. You get invited to a barbecue, you know. I taught when I was in New Zealand. It was New Lynn, West Auckland, and you know, West Auckland. Jackie Griffin's done the manager there's done a great job.
Yeah.
And it's an island culture, isn't it? It's all the Fijians, the Tongans, the Samoans, and they love family. So I was the surrogate, you know, white boy grandson of half the members, you know, and you, and I think that was one of the big touching points in my change. Was there was a guy there, you might have known the story about Oni, who was a member there was a very overweight member, and he came to my class and ended up having a good experience and came back. And sort of, to cut a long story short, after about a year, he gave me a card with a letter in it that just said, "Hey man, thanks for your class. You know, you weren't to know this, but a year ago, you know, I was going through some not good times. I was heavily overweight, some health issues, and he'd actually lost almost 50 kilos in that year."
Wow.
And that was kind of when I realized that A, this isn't about me.
Yeah.
B, it isn't just a class. To someone else, it isn't just another group fitness class, you know. And just think, if I hadn't have rocked up to that class that day, and I didn't do anything special, I just said hello because I
Yeah.
saw that he knew. So I did the same thing that anybody listening would do, but it was a big deal to him that day. It was
Yeah.
really important. So if I wasn't there and that never happened, who knows what that journey might have been. So that was kind of pivotal moment when I realized that you've got to honor the people that are in your room. They're all there for a different reason. Everyone's got a story. This is a big deal to some people. They've really made an effort to come today. You know, and who are you to deny them that great experience, you know, by being an idiot or questioning how much weight they've got on the bar or telling them
Yeah.
they've got.
Yeah.
So that was a real humbling moment for me. And it was quite emotional, because when I look back over my career, there's been highlights, like you say, the DVDs, traveling the world and all that stuff. But absolutely, this whole journey of destinations that I've had doesn't mean anything. The times like that is when I've really gone, whoa, this is what we do. And that's the thing that I guess has kept me having some longevity in the industry and made my teaching all about the people in front of me.
Yeah.
So I'm there before class, and it's nothing to do with group fitness. I'm just chatting, you know, how are you
Mm.
doing? What's in your day? I know about people's kids. I know about their dogs. I know if they've gone on holiday. I just treat a class like it's people coming to my front room for a party. You know, I invite you to my house. Is the music okay? Have you got a
Yeah.
drink?
Yeah.
Will, if you met Ben, if you met Will. Um, and oddly enough, like you say, the skills of actually teaching might only be 30% of what I do. It's so much more around the community building, looking after people, helping new people, understanding that this is a huge deal for someone else. It's not just a workout. It's not
Yeah.
just a group class. And like you touched on, the social media thing, which I'm not very good at either.
We're too
But
old,
I'm
mate.
quite good at coaching other people to do it and helping them understand the importance of, you know, we need to keep these people connected when they're not inside the four walls of our club.
Yeah.
We need to be able to reach out and engage them in the hours and hours and hours and hours that they're not inside your group fitness room.
Yeah.
Because they're only in your room a couple of 3 hours a week. So that is where the intelligent people have really built, you know, it's built a business, but it's a business based on people. And I train you know, I'm still lucky that I train a lot of instructors, and that's something that I talk about. You know, we are in a people industry. We just happen to teach group fitness, or it's a
Yeah.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
industry
Yeah.
that have to
Totally.
do personal training. So once you can understand people's behavior and you really honor that you're doing it for the right reasons, you will be successful, because you will find a way. you'll find a way to create a program, to get online, to do a workout, and so that's probably the biggest changes.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I have had a bit of a realization. It's been a long realization over the course of a number of years where I became older and less capable of giving as much as I might have used to have given in terms of jumping high or top ending it. And so, but at the same time, became more aware of the stuff you're talking about, the fact that you can positively impact someone's life. And the more mature you get, and when you get past your 20s, and it's less about you and more about kind of the impact that you're having. I have to admit that having been at the top end of the industry where I was, like you said, so focused on craft that I was so focused on delivering a really great workout that I would see people who were having success and being kind of social media stars. And I'd watch them actually deliver a class and I'd be like, wow, they're so bad. And it's really bad that they are so famous because they're pretty shit. and over the course of the years, I've kind of come around and realized that, yeah, but they're getting thousands of people into fitness. And now that I've kind of got to that endpoint myself, which is, what is my purpose for being in the fitness industry? It's to help instructors help other people. And the end goal is just bringing more people in. And the pandemic was really interesting, watching how fitness instructors became the center of so many people's communities. They were shut down. They couldn't go out. The only people they had providing them with anything in terms of social interaction was that live stream class that they were doing. And I think all instructors have a renewed realization of the positive impact that they can have that has not really a lot to do with whether or not they teach the squat track really well, and much more to do with bringing people into the tent.
It's been really cool because I've experienced that same kind of involvement as you, and I think because even in that sort of personal training space, and for me it was that bodybuilding style of training for a long time, and then it was sort of CrossFit, Olympic weightlifting, and I do TRX and kettlebells and that stuff. And then you're opening up Instagram and you're just seeing some beautiful young girl selling a PDF program.
Peach Band.
Yeah. It used to crush me because I'm like, the information is not correct. It's not good training.
Yeah. Me too.
And it bothered me. And then
I think it still crushes a lot of instructors. I'm beginning to become that person that's like, don't be bitter about what they're doing.
I've completely shifted because I used to be that, it wasn't arrogance. It was around, proper training has to be proper training.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't, because we're not training athletes. It's not the Olympics, and people are going to be moving. Oh, but it's not safe. Well, you can just walk on a treadmill and hurt yourself. You can walk down the stairs and hurt yourself. So this safety thing is just nonsense to me, because the human body moves how the human body moves. So exactly what you said, who are we to say if there's a young pretty girl that's got 10 million followers and she's getting 6 million people moving, hats off to you, fair play, well done. You've got a great business and you're making money and you're getting people exercising, So what if strength and conditioning coach thinks your squat's not good? It doesn't matter, because you're getting people moving. Some of those people might graduate and get a personal trainer that's got a bit more credibility in terms of they've got a weightlifting course, or they're a strength and conditioning specialist or a mobility specialist. People might move into that space if that's what they want. But that's where this realization, and it was off a talk that Bevan James Eyles had actually quite a long time ago. I think he was talking to a woman called Mid Thomas, who's sort of a bit of a legend in the industry as well. Some of your listeners might know. But they were talking about exactly this, about if our role is actually to get more people into exercise, that we are failing. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
But these Instagram fitness models, they are getting more people into exercise. So we can learn from that, and we can just soften off a little bit and go, we need to be easy entry. We need to be quick, easy, cheap access. We need to be able to get people moving. It's about success. It's about community, social week, feeling good. It doesn't have to be a perfect squat. It doesn't have to be a correct Olympic weightlifting.
It's so true, right? I've spent hundreds of hours thinking about how to coach a high knee run through Body Attack and all these things. And so sometimes when I watch Joe Wicks do a high knee run, on his P with Joe, I'm like, oh, you're just saying run high knees 20 times. I would have 20 different cues, all of them really good. And I used to get so annoyed, and now I'm like, but he's got 100,000 people watching him doing a high knee run. Good for him. But it was a mindset shift that I had to consciously do, that I think a lot of instructors that have been in the industry for a long time struggle with. But I think that the ones that have realized how that role is changing are the ones that are managing to kind of find a new niche within the industry and get fulfillment ultimately, which is the most important thing.
And it loops back to that question you had where you asked about, where I see the future of fitness, or where I see it going into. I absolutely see businesses making a 100% direct, run towards, we want to get new people exercising.
Yeah.
We're talking beginners. It's you've got Les Mills on Demand, you've got Peloton, you've got these other businesses that are doing great stuff in this digital space.
Yeah.
A large portion of their client base are current exercisers or regular exercisers. Yes, we've mopped up some new people, and we've got some new group fitness, which is great. What we really need to do is find a real specific focus towards the absolute beginner. And that's where, like here in China, we've got Keep. Keep is a great app for beginners.
I've seen Keep, actually. It's really interesting.
LeFit is a company that they've got the boutique gyms, but they've got the boutique gyms with a little personal training studio or a little gym bolted on.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're getting more into the online space of coaching plans, 6 weeks workouts. But absolutely, they're going for the beginners. They want to make people move. And I think that's what we're going to see in China is a big growth in new exercises, and the young generation coming through. They've got more role models ahead of them because they're seeing more people exercising. Mm-hmm. There's more education, there's more knowledge, there's more social media presence. And I think we will see a big drive and a boom into people that have done zero exercise to actually starting to get moving, which is awesome, because like you said, that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so fulfilling to seeing someone coming from a standing start, like seeing someone that comes into your class and they're an athlete, and it might be great to watch them, but ultimately there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing someone come to your class looking like they are scared as hell, going up to them, saying hi before class, and seeing that point through the class where they're smiling and not looking around and watching people are watching them. They're just enjoying the class. It's great. And and as you said, you can do it digitally. Like, it's not like there's a restriction on how you can do that. You can do that through having a walking group at your gym where you're just like, okay, we're all going to meet at 8 a.m. and go for a walk, and bring your mum. Like, your mum's a bit sedentary, she's got diabetes. Why don't you just bring your mum along and we'll go for an hour long walk?
It is a change, isn't it? It's a real change in our dynamic of what we got excited about originally.
Yeah.
On stage.
I got excited about being on stage in front of 150 people. That was what got me into teaching, if I'm being perfectly honest. And
then through training, and exactly, me too. And it was great. And it was a buzz, and being able to travel and getting some free fitness gear and being able to rock up at any gym and work out and all that stuff it's like icing on the cake. It's nice. But if that was at the heart of why we did what we did, we would have failed long ago.
You'd no longer be in it, right?
But yeah, we started that way. We had that in us, but somewhere deep down was the core of why we're really doing it. And we managed to find that somehow. And so I feel that people like you and I we're lucky that we found that, and that we're able to find an avenue to share that and help other people to find that. And I think that's where this is really, really key, because even a couple of times recently, I've had exactly that situation where you've seen someone in class and they might be a little overweight, a bit deconditioned, a bit nervous, timid, they're not quite following well, but you might have just said something that got them to do just 3 more seconds of an exercise.
Yeah.
Just do another jumping jack, or just, push for another 4 seconds. And then you see that success in their face and how they feel really good that you just said that one little thing that helps them get across the line. And it's not about doing push-ups on your toes or high knee run better or 2-2-3-1 chest up, abs on. It's it's a human connection where you've seen someone eye to eye, face to face, and you've said something that's made a difference to them feeling better about themselves in that moment. And you can't take that away. They then go and shower, they go home, and they feel really good about that. And that's the kind of stuff that means, they're nicer to their kids, they're better to their husband. They feel eating healthier because they feel better. They feel more confident. They wake up better the next day. They want to come back and do it again. They want to bring a friend with them, and all the stuff that we preach that we want to happen in the industry, it actually does happen with moments like that. It's a real change in dynamic, and I'm glad that you've got your platform where you use this sort of stuff. And I see what you're doing with Shift, and I see what you're doing with your podcast and your content, and I love that, and I respect you for doing that. And I think that's, for me as well, seeing you break away and do your own thing like that. I'm like I say, we've gone back a long time with the Les Mills world, and gone through similar journeys and then different journeys, but ultimately we're both trying to do the same thing. And I think what you're doing is really good stuff and really important stuff, and it's out there making a difference. Same with people like Bevan, with his Couch to 5K. Making it easy, making it quick, getting beginners moving. It's not about being on the big stage, being famous anymore. It's about real people, and it's about helping other people. And I love that. And so, yeah, hats off to you, man, because you're doing great stuff. And so I hope you feel proud.
Thank you very much. Well, I think that, like, on that note, I actually have one. I have one final question. I was going to ask you your observations about where the industry is going, but I think you've pretty much summed that up. The one thing I did want to ask is you are now in a position where you are kind of selecting who are the next stars of fitness in China, where it's like fitness is burgeoning and coming through. If you could give a fitness instructor who is starting off, who's early in their career, one piece of advice for being successful in the industry as it is today, what would that piece of advice be?
That's the $6 million
Yeah,
question.
yeah, exactly. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Funny because I think it does change. It changes if you're talking to new instructors or talking to experienced instructors, people that have lost a bit of passion or need to find their way again, or people that are, looking.
Okay, let's say, I'll narrow it down for you. Been in the industry 2 or 3 years, wanting to get to the next stage of popularity and potentially getting opportunities to be more of the face or name of something. What would be the thing that you would focus on? Say that there's someone. Say it's okay. Let's go real specific. This is a instructor in China who wants to be part of the Les Mills presenter team in China. What is your advice to them in order to make that next step?
That's interesting because
have a very large social media following.
It's interesting because, like, you are right, although that is my role, so I look after trainers and presenters, and people want to be on the team and they want to do, train instructors, they want to be on the big stage, and here there is that big rock star thing. So there is a very big, clubs are trying to recruit the rock star. So if you've got a big name so for me it's in the Les Mills world, so someone like Luna, for example, who's a big body pump icon, if a club can actually recruit her, they know it's going to be good for business. And it's we've got Luna, we've got the body pump queen of China. It's going to be great for them. So, we know that people in those positions are very well respected here in China, and it's possibly more so than globally. So I think as a pinnacle of your career, when you're in that position, you're able to get a better income from your club. You're able to leverage that obviously through social media and stuff. So I'm fully behind that, and I promote that. And if anyone wants that, I will back them 100% of the way. But oddly enough, my focus around helping instructors be successful isn't driving them towards that, because you and I know only a very few amount of people can get that. And it's not
ends, right? Like it's like it's a finite opportunity.
Very finite.
Especially you, man, out the back end of it. No more opportunities for you, your age.
I'm behind the scenes now, man. I'm
past it. Well past it.
It's funny because I see people that crave that so much, and I love that about them. I want them to be hungry. I want them to upskill and develop and do the networking and do all the right things, and more power to them. And I will promote that and push them as all the way. But I find myself more and more talking about it's what you do in your day-to-day classes. It's what you do at the ground level that's really important. And when I look back over my journey, those moments that I really look back on fondly, that are where I've had the voyage of self-discovery, where I've met new people, where I've been fortunate enough to have these opportunities and find new things in the industry or create new paths. It's not been around being on stage or being on a DVD. Those are a few moments that are great highlights, but the real magic moments that I look back on are around that and how I've helped other people. So I think for me, the big piece of advice is always around teach with passion more than perfection. So I just love love what you do, show it, make it fun, be a great motivator, be a great connector. Don't worry if you make mistakes or get your choreography wrong. It's passion will always beat perfection. And I want the industry to be fun and engaging, and I want people to be unique in themselves and be quirky and be different. But then if you come under that with what are the sort of key points so I guess there's 3 key points. One is around upskilling yourself. So look for cool ways to keep growing and developing. Search outside the industry. So I touched on it earlier about, public speakers. Watch TED Talks. How do public speakers engage an audience? How do they create community? How do they use their voice, their body language? How, like music, Eminem, how does Eminem use his voice to create intensity and contrast? Like I've learned a lot from rappers around how they use their voice for me teaching in class. It could be musicians, how they do music, and so it could be actors' skills. So looking outside of the industry to make you better at what you do within the industry, because there's hundreds of great body pump instructors that know how to squat, and they coach great squat, and they've done CrossFit training, they've done Olympic lifting, they're bodybuilders, they've done fitness competitions, but it's around this connection and engaging an audience. And then obviously with that, you've got the physical side of what I've learned on my journey is looking after your body. So to have longevity industry, you know, it's, I used to have energy drinks and then teach combat and pump back.
Yeah. Well, what's in the diet today? 2 Red Bulls and a muffin.
It's ridiculous.
sugar.
So around the constant growth and development to engage your audience and upskill your level of professionalism, but also to keep you interested in what you do. There's the looking after your body. You know, I wish I'd done more stretching, more mobility work, more flexibility, more cross training, you know, movement patterns, yoga, Pilates, whatever, all that stuff. I'd wish I'd done more of that so I looked after my body better. And then the third one is around mental health. So I'm a real big advocate on mental health. And I've found that since the COVID virus and the pandemic, a lot of times when I'm delivering and I'm talking to people about health and fitness, a big chunk of where I direct the talking is around mental health. Our job, you know, we give so much, and you'd be the same as me. We've had so many highs and so many lows. And I'm sure you've had moments when you're locked away in your hotel room, just depressed as anything, but you're just on stage in front of 500 people. And it's like, and everyone loves you.
Yeah.
But you're in your hotel room, you're just like, oh God, I hate myself. I hate this. It's not healthy, man. It's not healthy. And I've struggled with it for many, many years. But through the pandemic, it just seemed that I was able to help a lot of other people in that space. And it actually helped me. So, you know, looking after your mental health, things like writing a gratitude journal, meditation, controlling what you can control, connecting with other people, being of service to your community. There's a whole list of things that we could dive into. But yeah, those 3 things underneath it, your personal growth and development, looking after your body physically and looking after yourself mentally. And if what you do is about the people, if it's always about other people, not about yourself, you're going to have longevity and you'll be successful. And what I've seen is people that have reached those heights in the industry, people like yourself, people like Bevan, you know, people like Joel Freeman. I watched heard your podcast with him. Somewhere along the line, we all found out it wasn't about us; it was about them. We made our focus external, and we happened to be getting more success based around helping other people. And I think that's a really great message. And that's where I've kind of steered people away from, I want to be famous, I want to be on stage, to it's more important what you do in your club. You teach 12 classes, 6 classes, 4 classes every week. You see these people week in and week out. It's more important how you look after them than what you do in 5 minutes of famous on stage. So yeah, this kind of an irony, isn't it? It's kind of dichotomy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that pretty accurately sums up a lot of what the industry is about. So thank you, Matt, for telling us about the experience in China, which I have to say is less different than I expected it to be. I don't know what I was expecting, but it sounds like the industry is kind of pumping along at relatively the same style as the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think it's not too different. I mean, like I touched on, I feel like the boutique thing's booming maybe quicker and faster than elsewhere. We're still kind of an emerging market, so we've got that that's, I guess, working in our favor. And the speed of how things move quickly, the agility and how we are digitally. I mean, it's frightening the numbers that we can rack up here in terms of online. You know, it's
we had the number of attendances in a digital class or sign-ups to
30 million hits. We do this event called The One, which is an instructor talent search.
Yeah.
And it's just your regular instructors jumping on stage teaching, and we judge it like the X Factor.
Yeah. And I've seen that actually on social media. It looks really, really cool. I think you and I had a discussion about the comments.
I've never been in front of 30 million people in my whole life. I can only
say that again. How many?
30 million.
You had
30 million hits. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But we've got a lot of channels. So there's WeChat, Weibo, Douyin. You know, there's a whole bunch. But the numbers are staggering. What could happen here?
Yeah.
But yeah. Mate, it's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah, you too. And well, I'm sure we'll try and get you back. But next time I want you to come back with something really random that they're doing in China that we can all learn about, like some random fitness contraption. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Matt.